Hello, everybody. It's AJ, the most liberal of the three hosts of everything we know about the American heartland. I've got some terrible, terrible, awful news, and that is that BCRA has died. The Better Care Reconciliation Act is dead. Lee and Moran of Utah and Kansas, respectively, have announced that they're the third and fourth senators against BCRA. Mitch McConnell announced that instead of BCRA, they would move forward with repeal and delay. Repeal and delay is even worse. It's when you repeal the ACA and have no replacement plan. The repeal would have been effective after the 2018 midterms, and the CBO has scored the 2015 version of the repeal bill as uninsuring 32 million people. And within the day, that proposal also died because Capito, Murkowski, and Collins all came out against it. The end result is that now we've got an episode that doesn't reflect the death of BCRA or the death of repeal and delay. Tom specifically wanted me to mention that this isn't his fault. He had wanted to do an episode about non-compete clauses.
Dude, this is crazy. Amazon has an India bazaar where you can buy all things Indian. So, like, you could be a non-Indian person that needs, like, you know, an outfit for a wedding or something, and they have ethnic wear for men. And you could basically buy this stuff. This is amazing.
Ethnic wear for...
Dude, this stuff is cheap. Are you kidding me? This
yeah,
is
dude,
like
they probably make it in India.
Dude, this is cheaper than going to India itself. And I'm talking about, like, actually trying to... Like, you can get a Nehru jacket for $20.
Like, can I renew my objections to talking about and participating in Amazon Prime Day?
What's your problem with Amazon Prime Day?
You don't listen to the show, do you, Ruchit?
No. Oh, my gosh. You get 10% off on this as well. You get, like, different color. This is really good. Like, I mean, if our listeners are listening to this and AJ hasn't edited it out, I would highly recommend you go to Amazon Fashion and get yourself a Nehru jacket. I mean, you know, this might be a good time for a little bit of a side discussion on how much of a bad Jawaharlal Nehru is, you know, or was, I should say. I mean, the guy.
Are you sure this is not like the costume section, like for Halloween?
No, dude, no.
These are like really cheap for.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
I can't imagine these are very good quality.
Tom, are you
I don't know. Some of the reviews are pretty good.
An Indian person for Halloween.
Yeah,
that's offensive, Tom.
I've done it before. Actually, one year my friend and I went as Johnny Quest and his Indian buddy.
Haji.
But I was Johnny Quest and he was the Indian buddy.
Dude, there's free returns on this stuff. So in case you don't like it, you just send it back.
I think that's true of all of Amazon.
No. It's not true of all of Amazon. Especially on the clothing. You have to be careful on that. A lot of stuff, there's not free returns.
Well, that sucks.
We have a lot of BCRA follow-up.
We'll get there in a second, but the other thing I want to say about Amazon Fashion is until I saw the cheapness of their Indian clothing section, I was actually thinking that Amazon Fashion is sort of worthless because it's, you know, they want to sell you dress shirts for like $40. Well, if I wanted to pay $40 for a dress shirt, I'd go to an actual store. You know what I mean?
Go to Jose Bank.
Yeah, exactly.
And get like 5.
Yeah, for that kind of money. Like, I can get although they say these shirts have a lifetime guarantee, how exactly do they do that? Is that against like wear and tear and stuff too? Because that would be cool.
People just say shit.
Yeah, dude. They make claims and then you have to sue them.
Okay, let's do BCRA. Let's get on with the show. Is this the show?
Follow up.
No, dude. This is BCRA 2.0, dude. That I think we call the show Everything We Know About BCRA 2.0.
Well, AJ does the sound editing and I do the website, so
I think the title we vote on. Usually Tom just does the title, but I actually do think we should start talking about what the title should be.
Why?
Because
I think Tom does a great job on title selection.
I had a title suggestion 2 episodes ago and Tom ignored it.
That's Tom's domain.
Oh, where did you suggest it?
It was everything you called it Everything We Know About the Supreme Court, but I had suggested Everything Else We Know About Neil Gorsuch.
Oh, did that not end up being the title?
No.
Oh.
Richard really doesn't listen to the show.
No, dude, I do sometimes. It's just hard for me to listen to myself talk.
So anyway, I now feel like I'm going to start including in the episode discussions about the titles, that when that title isn't the title of the show because of Tom's outrageous exercise of fiat, then I feel like at least my views will be represented on the show.
Tom, you're like a central banker in many ways, you know? Like you just have views and they're fiat and bam, you just control it like the money supply. It's pretty absurd, actually.
But anyway, I kind of feel like everything else we know about BCRA, or in fact everything we know about BCRA, may be appropriate. Anyway, so let's get started. Sara Kliff.
Can't we just call it about BCRA 2.0? I think that's a good title. Everything we know about BCRA 2.0.
Okay, we'll do that. Tom, you're outvoted. Okay, Sara Kliff. Kliff.
Can we start with what is BCRA 2.0, dude? What is BCRA 2.0?
Oh my God, that was the sentence I was in the middle of saying.
Oh, okay.
Sara Kliff has an explainer on Vox about what BCRA 2.0 is.
And what does she say?
Bill's pretty bad. So here's there's also Waldman at the Washington Post also has a pretty good summation. So between the Kliff article and the Waldman article, here's sort of the gist of what changes from the last draft. So I'm going to go through the list quickly, and then we can talk about the individual points. To me, the highlight changes are: 1, the new draft adopts the Cruz Amendment. 2, reverses the proposal.
What's the Cruz Amendment?
Oh. All right. Well, okay. So what I had said was, I'll go through them quickly, and then we can talk about each one. And after I read the first one, you said, "Oh, what's that?"
Yeah.
Okay, let's just go through each one. The Cruz Amendment we talked about last week. Tom also doesn't listen to the show, but the proposal basically is to say that if insurers offer at least one ACA compliant plan, you know, a plan that offers essential health benefits, et cetera, then the insurers can also offer whatever plans they want. So whereas before the essential health benefits were mandatory, everybody had to offer all of the essential health benefits in every plan. Now, as long as you have one ACA compliant plan, you can also offer whatever additional plans you want. Experts are saying that this would result in their becoming 2 risk pools. Basically, right now, the whole point of only having ACA compliant plans is that there's all one risk pool. All of the plans offer the same benefits.
Maybe we should talk a little bit about kind of what that is and sort of why that matters. So what the sort of Cruz Amendment does, and actually, you know, if not for the Cruz Amendment, I honestly was done with talking about BCRA. I was like, screw BCRA. I'm not interested anymore. This is like, to me, it's like Don Jr., which means, which is to say I don't care. You know, like let it go where it's going, and you know, hopefully that's not somewhere nice. But what the Cruz Amendment does is, as AJ said, it allows you to sell, like it's sort of like saying that if you're a restaurant, as long as you sell one item on your menu that is compliant with like health codes, you know, so as long as like there's one part of your kitchen, as long as there's one part of your kitchen that isn't completely filthy, and there's at least one item on your menu that, you know, isn't infested with like cockroaches, the rest of your kitchen can be as filthy as you want, you know? So if like you just have to mark that item that says, hey, this is a health code compliant item, you know, and so you can be assured that we used clean water, and then everything else on the menu you could just sell however you want. So that's pretty bad, right? I mean, like, you know, the restaurant as a whole should probably just be health code compliant, and everything in there you should be able to eat and be like, okay, I'm not going to get deathly ill if I eat this, right? So this idea of like kind of opting out of things, it sort of makes this theoretical sense, because like, you know, Cruz and other folks will talk about this and they'll say, well, you know, what's wrong with customers having more choices? Well, some of the choices are stupid, you know, like they're just plain stupid, okay? And, you know, healthcare is already complicated enough, right? How many people like sit around reading the terms and conditions of their healthcare policy? Like, if you have actually read the terms and conditions of your healthcare policy, please tweet at us, you know? and so because it's so complicated, it kind of makes sense just to have like minimum benefits that everybody provides. So when you buy a health insurance plan, you know that it includes certain things. You know that the food isn't going to be like mixed with fecal matter, you know? So anyway, I'm almost done with my diatribe. I guess I'm done. I just think this is like a dumb idea.
So you know who agrees with Ruchit?
What'd you say?
You know who agrees with Ruchit?
Who?
the president and CEO of America's health insurance plans, and the president and CEO of Blue Cross Blue Shield Association of America. They wrote a joint letter to Congress saying that the Cruz Amendment is unworkable in any form and will lead to millions of folks being terminated from their insurance plans.
So I think that's right. I think that the Ruchit's analogy may not actually be strong enough. And the point there is that it's not just that these essential health benefits under the ACA cause people to be able to buy plans that are not stupid, or put differently, prevent people from buying stupid plans. Because there are plans that are not ACA compliant that may make perfect sense for someone, who, perceives themselves to be perfectly healthy. And for example, I'm a man, will never get pregnant, and that means that, I don't need to buy pregnancy coverage, which is part of the essential health benefits. But the point also is that everybody has to get plans that cover the same sorts of things so that everybody forms one risk pool. And it is an indirect way of getting young and healthy people to subsidize old and sick people by participating in the same risk pool as them. And with community rating and without price discrimination, the average of the cost of the sick people and the cost of the healthy people is what gets charged to everybody. Whereas if you have, under the Cruz Amendment, you ended up with two risk pools, one for sick people and one for healthy people. And so the healthy people would be paying an average price that is much lower than the average price for the sick people.
And I think this comes back to if you're never going to get sick, then, maybe you just buy a health insurance plan that doesn't cover very much and you're totally fine, except for when you actually do get sick. And then you're stuck in this terrible plan. And we're not kind of making this up. This is actually what life was like, and there's a lot of good articles for people that are kind of interested about that, of, just stories of medical bankruptcies and people having really crappy health insurance plans, and, that they sort of chose, and, maybe they shouldn't have chosen those plans, but they did. And what ended up happening is it ended up costing them a lot of money, and it ended up being very, very bad for their health. So it's not really a hypothetical world, I think. And I'm kind of as a Texan, I'm kind of ready for Ted Cruz to offer one productive piece of legislation, just one, in 6 years. I'm not asking for a lot, just one. And he may have come close, actually, although I don't think this is productive. This week, I guess he also offered a piece of legislation to rename the street that the Chinese embassy is on in D.C. after the Chinese dissident that passed away in jail in China. He died of cancer, and they wouldn't let him come to the United States, I guess, to be treated. And so now Cruz has decided, let me rename a street as kind of an FU to China. So I don't know. I don't know if that – I don't think that meets my productive legislation test. Just one piece in 6 years. That's it.
So Paul Krugman agrees with you, Ruchit. So Paul Krugman wrote something saying basically that, like what Ruchit was saying, we already know what – it was like before the ACA. We've already been there. So while people may be skeptical that the CBO did or didn't correctly score the ACA, that at least was something new. Repealing the ACA, we already know what that was like, which is a fair point for Krugman to make. Okay, so the next change in the bill is the original version of BCRA would have eliminated the 3.9% investment tax and the 0.9% payroll tax on wealthier Americans. This new draft wouldn't eliminate those taxes. So there are plenty of tax cuts for wealthy people in the bill, including some newer creative ones we'll get to later. But the NIIT, the net investment income tax, from the ACA would remain. And that is a good tax. We talked about that on the show earlier, but just quickly, is there a consensus on the show that this is a good tax? We should keep it?
I'm torn about all taxes, so I don't know.
Okay. Well, that's fair. Tom?
I wasn't listening.
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
So Tom's a yes.
Tom's a yes. Okay, so there's something under the ACA called cost-sharing subsidies. Basically, it was a pool of money to help insurers with the transition costs to the new ACA regime and to make sure that premiums stayed down. It was intended to be a temporary fund that would only continue for a couple years. There's some suggestion that the fund was never properly appropriated, and so a court has actually the court has actually ordered that it wasn't really appropriated and that the administration can't pay these CSRs, but the administration's paying the CSRs anyway during the pendency of the case on appeal. So anyway, the BCRA would sunset the cost-sharing subsidies and replace it with a fund to do something fairly similar to what the cost-sharing subsidies do, but it would really just be like handouts to the individual states.
Sounds like big government.
Yeah,
instead of giving money directly to the people, give it to the states.
Well, the cost-sharing subsidies go directly to the insurers. But yeah, I mean, basically, you would be giving it to states and hope that states would come up with programs that would cause premiums to be lower, instead of just giving the money to the insurance companies on the condition that the premiums be lower, right? I mean, you're sort of giving the money to the states in the hopes that they'll do the thing that you would like them to do. Anyway, the new draft of BCRA increases the size of this fund quite a bit. It's now $182 billion. Would you like to hear the funniest part?
What's the funniest part?
There is a new clause dealing with the $182 billion fund. It says that for any state with insurance premiums more than 75% greater than the national average, that state has to get at least 1% of this $182 billion fund.
And that only state is Alaska. Am I right?
Alaska.
Am I right? Did I guess correctly?
Yeah, so I've heard this called the Polar Payoff. Vox is calling it the Kodiak Kickback, which I like. God, I'm blanking on the name, but there's another senator from Alaska, the one who isn't Murkowski, Sullivan. Sullivan says he likes it. Murkowski is still sort of on the fence. But it does sort of seem that if Murkowski ends up voting for the bill, then it would be fair to say that,
she was paid off to do so. I mean, to be fair, there were provisions in the original Obamacare bill, I recall, that were designed to pay off one of the senators from Nebraska. Was it Max Baucus?
No, Bill Nelson, the Kornhusker Kickback. But they didn't end up doing it. It was in...
no, there was something for Nebraska. There was something like...
Yeah, the Kornhusker Kickback. But it didn't make it into the final law.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Look up. Google Kornhusker Kickback right now. So you and Antonin Scalia are making the same mistake, which is that you read some article about the Kornhusker Kickback some number of years ago, and then now sort of feel like it's part of the ACA. Scalia did this during oral arguments on Sebelius. He was like, "Oh yeah, and the Kornhusker Kickback, we hate that too, don't we?" And then everyone was like,
"Oh yeah, I do remember him saying that." I thought that was true.
No.
This is terrible. How could Scalia do this to me?
Even in death, Scalia ruins our lives.
If we say it enough times, it becomes true.
There's an Atlantic article on this as well. Max Baucus of Montana. I think it had to do with Montana. No, maybe it was.
No. The Kornhusker Kickback.
Oh, dude, there's an article on Omaha.com, which is the Omaha newspaper. Is ex-Nebraska Senator Ben Nelson to blame for health care? Word stumblings. Let's see. Let's take a look at this. I forgot about this guy.
The first hit when you Google Kornhusker Kickback is Obamacare health plan nixes Ben Nelson's Kornhusker Kickback. So literally, Scalia and Ruchit did not Google Cornhusker Kickback before.
Oh, I see. I see. Now I'm reading about this. I see. I mean, listen, I'm willing to admit that, I was wrong. The fake news media. What can I say?
And Scalia and the fake news media. That would be a good band name.
That would be a great band name. Who publicized what Scalia did? The fake news media.
Yeah.
Think about that, AJ.
Okay, here's a new tax cut for rich people. Are you ready to hear what that is? HSAs, under the new draft of BCRA, HSAs can be used to pay your insurance premiums. So an HSA is a tax-preferred savings account that you use for healthcare purchases. And basically, you have to be fairly wealthy for an HSA to sort of be worth it for you.
I don't think so. I don't think that's true. I mean, I think you can get an HSA that has because you can put $3,000 in an HSA. Maybe it's a little bit more now, but the point is, I don't think you have to be super wealthy to get an HSA. Like I like health savings accounts.
I mean, so the people who qualify for like Medicaid and tons of the people that qualify for ACA premium subsidy credits don't get a lot of value out of their HSA, right? You have to have income tax in order for an HSA to benefit you, and half of Americans don't pay income tax because they don't have a high enough income.
Well, that's true. Maybe we should just make all Americans pay.
It's not quite a benefit for the 1%, but you do need to be fairly wealthy for it to benefit you.
I think you have to be like probably upper middle class for it to benefit you. I would agree with that. But like, I think there's probably a decent percentage of the country, maybe 20, 30% that benefits from HSAs. And I think the other good thing about HSAs is you can put the money away. Yes, there's a tax deduction element to it, but the other thing is it actually enables you to get high deductible plans in an efficient way. So, I've had high deductible plans before, and with an HSA, for example, Steph had one at one point. And what you can do is like you can get a plan with a $3,000 or $5,000 deductible. You can fund that. You don't have to fully fund it, but you can fund some amount of it, and the deductible can be paid out of that HSA, which is pretty good. It's helpful to people.
Yeah, I mean, if you're, that's real money if you're in a high enough tax bracket. Okay. $45 billion to combat opioid addiction. So this is sort of, I don't have a clever name for this yet, but this very much seems to be a payoff to Rob Portman and Shelley Moore Capito, because they have couched their objections to the bill mostly in terms of that the cuts to Medicaid would have a lot of Medicaid spending. Like Medicaid covers opioid addiction, and like a fair proportion of Medicaid spending helps people with opioid addiction. And so basically they want to cut federal spending on opioid addiction by quite a bit, and then pay off just in particular Portman and Capito with this $45 billion fund. John Kasich has been all over this. We should get to that later. We'll come back to that. But John Kasich has been sort of all over this issue and has been trying to put a lot of pressure on Portman publicly. What's next? There's a new provision allowing people to use tax credits to buy catastrophic plans with extremely high deductibles that cover no routine care. So basically, this is similar to the Cruz Amendment in concept. Basically, it allows people to use tax credits to buy plans that are not good plans, basically. This is bad. Pretty bad so far, right?
No, I mean, if you're allowed to use your money from your HSA to purchase, I guess I like that piece of policy, that you can use money from your HSA to pay your premiums.
No. This is different. What is this one? Separate set of tax credits, just in particular to buy catastrophic plans.
Ruch, why do you like that? Like, it seems to me like HSA should be reserved for, not routine care, routine costs, but unexpected costs, right? Like, it's like an emergency fund, right?
Actually, I think that's actually the opposite of what HSAs are for. I think
you have an HSA with a high deductible plan, because when that high deductible hits, you want to be prepared to pay. You pay for it, right?
No. So the way high deductible plans work is you get a plan with a $3,000 deductible, right? So you're responsible for the first $3,000, and then insurance covers either all or, the vast majority of anything above that $3,000. So, you want, the way I've always used my HSAs whenever I've had them is to you could use it to buy glasses. You could use it to pay for your copay. You could use it to pay for tests, and honestly, the fact that you have this $3,000 that you've put the money in, I think it actually makes you a better consumer. You tend to shop around more because it's your money that you are at that point spending, because you haven't hit your deductible yet. Once you hit your deductible, if you have a $500 deductible, you're sort of like, okay, whatever, I don't care. Do all the tests you want.
I mean, literally the definition of insurance is to socialize these costs, right? That's actually what insurance does.
You have to ask what. Well, hold on now. You have to ask what costs do you want to socialize, right? So it can't be all health. I mean, it could be, I guess, all health insurance costs, period. But think about car insurance, right? Your insurance company does not pay for you to go get an oil change. You know, it doesn't pay for you to go do kind of basic car maintenance. What it does pay for is when you get into an accident and you have like a $10,000 expense and maybe you have healthcare expenses or whatever else that are a result of that accident, it pays. So that's one of the really, really good things about an HSA is you take that money that you've put aside and you use it to pay for sort of relatively routine healthcare expenses. Most years you don't actually spend the full $3,000 or whatever it is, and then it rolls over to the next year.
So if you don't spend the full $3,000, so it does roll over?
Yeah, it does roll over, yeah. So you could spend it next year. And the thing is like you can then contribute more money if you want or you don't. But I think the benefit of it making you a better healthcare consumer is definitely one that is understated. Because like when it's your money that you're spending, I think you think differently about it. And, you know, like I said, I think, AJ, you're right in the sense that this doesn't help the poorest Americans. It doesn't help Americans that qualify for Medicaid or the Medicaid expansion for that matter, right? But I think it is a good thing for Americans that are, you know, making, you know, middle class or upper middle class incomes. And it makes you think of healthcare as part of your budget. You know what I mean? Like the regular routine healthcare expenses as part of your budget, as opposed to immediately being in the category of catastrophic expense.
Well, okay, that's a fair point. And then the last thing is that the new draft of BCRA just rejiggers the tax credits for people who buy plans in the individual market through the exchanges. You know, these tax credits have been rejiggered in just about every draft that has come out. In the House, they were indexed to age. In the Senate, seems to be going back slightly more towards doing it based on income and the cost of the health insurance you're buying. But the tax credits are still much less generous and can be used for things that are not really what we would consider good insurance, et cetera, et cetera. So that's it. Those are the big changes in the bill. In sum, you know, I think on Pod Save America, they were saying their best guess was that the CBO score for this new draft would go from 22 million uninsured to about 18 million uninsured. I don't know how.
I think it could be higher. I think that, I mean, if you've got the CEO of like Blue Cross Blue Shield saying that this will, like, that the Cruz Amendment will force millions of people off of their health insurance, like that's on top of like removing subsidies and doing all the other things that the bill does. I actually think
it depends on how the CBO scores the Cruz Amendment, right? Like the CBO may take a light touch or a heavy touch with that. So
I would take the over. I would take the over on this.
So do you think it's going to uninsure more than the earlier draft?
Yes,
because of the Cruz Amendment.
Yes,
I mean, I think so in real life. I don't know about the CBO score. But either way, I mean, we're still talking about millions and millions and millions of people. Greg Sargent has a good article about sort of the individual states whose senators are in play and how many people lose insurance under the first draft of BCRA in those states. Do you want to hear some good ones?
Sure.
In Ohio, Rob Portman's state, 396,000 people would lose Medicaid. In Nebraska, Ben Sass's state, 81,000 people would lose Medicaid.
That's a lot of people, dude. Like Nebraska has like barely 900,000 people. Like that's a tiny ass state.
It's like 10% of the state would lose Medicaid.
Like that's a lot of freaking people.
In Nevada, Dean Heller, 87,000 people would lose Medicaid.
I don't know how Dean Heller votes for this bill. So for our listeners, kind of a reminder, Dean Heller is a senator from Nevada. He said he had serious issues with BCRA 1.0. His home state governor...
After they pulled the bill down, he said he wouldn't have voted for it. But he waited until after they pulled it down.
Yeah. And his home state governor, Brian Sandoval, who's a Republican, had been lobbying like very, very aggressively, you know, to make sure that their senator did not vote for this bill. And so it's interesting. I mean, like, it feels like he didn't get anything, right? Like, so Shelley Moore Capito got something, Lisa Murkowski got something, you know, but Rob Portman got something. But if you're Dean Heller, like, how unloved do you feel? You know, like, where's your Kornhusker kickback? You know, where's your Las Vegas shuffle?
Well, so one of the things I heard also on Pod Save America is that Steve Wynn promised to spend millions of dollars against Dean Heller in Nevada in 2018 unless he votes for the bill. So that may be his payoff, that Steve Wynn will stop yelling at him.
Dude, that's terrible. Like, can I just say Dean Heller is weak and that this is sad?
I mean,
if I were him, I would be going balls to the wall, being like, fine, you want to go to war? Like, let's go to war, you know? Like, everything I've been doing to protect you, no more. Like, let's raise the national minimum wage. You know what? I'm with you down it now. Like, because who's that going to hurt? That's gonna hurt Heller. I mean, not Heller. Sorry, Wynn.
I don't think that's right. Because if Heller, Heller is the weakest candidate for re-election that the Republicans have in the Senate in 2018. His is probably the seat that's most likely to go blue. And so, if there is a wave election, and the early indications are consistent with there being a wave election, Heller doesn't. If Heller has a chance of winning the general, he needs to get through the primary fairly comfortably, is probably his calculation, right? That Steve Wynn promising to spend $1 million against him in his primary, even if that doesn't, even if he ultimately wins his primary and makes it to the general, it is basically Steve Wynn saying that his career in the Senate is over if he doesn't vote for this bill. I would guess that is how Heller has interpreted his situation. I mean, Heller is sort of damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? So he's got this governor who's 20 points more popular than he is in his state, who's telling him to vote for this bill and publicly campaigning and doing public press events with him to sort of tie his hands with respect to the bill. And on the other hand, you've got Steve Wynn saying that if you don't vote for the bill, then I'm going to ruin your primary. So either way, I mean, it sounds like this is the end of Dean Heller. I don't know if there's any path forward for him.
Yeah, I think he's probably done. And I think, if you're done in this situation, I think you got to go balls to the wall. You can't just sit around.
He may. I don't know that much about Dean Heller. I mean, for him to go all out, for him to say, screw you, this is my last term anyway, that may manifest in voting for the bill, right? Like, he may actually believe in the bill.
That's true. That could be. I didn't think about it that way.
So here's the whip count. There are 52 senators in the GOP. There are 52 Republican senators in the Senate. The Vice President Mike Pence would cast a tie-breaking vote. So if Republicans need 50 votes, no fewer than 50 votes to get this bill passed. It's not subject to filibuster because they're going to try to go through it on the reconciliation process. Check the show notes. We've talked about this previously. So where are the votes? We've got Susan Collins sounds like a hard no. And Rand Paul sounds like a hard no.
Why is Rand Paul a no?
Rand Paul put out an op-ed. I think he published it in Breitbart.
The bastion of good journalism that is Breitbart, not to be confused with my Twitter handle.
Yeah, I mean, so Rand Paul did an op-ed in Breitbart where he basically said that BCRA, even as amended, is still basically Obamacare. This doesn't repeal Obamacare. He won't vote for it. I mean, as we talked about before, this is structurally basically Obamacare, just much, much, much less generous. So, okay, I put that in the show notes. Susan Collins of Maine, she has said publicly that she won't vote for a bill that cuts Medicaid by as much as the Republicans want to cut Medicaid. And she said that the bill would have to be significantly restructured in order to get her vote. She would need major changes. Maybe I don't know. I don't know who else is gettable. But Bill Cassidy in Louisiana published his own competing plan with BCRA. So, but that doesn't mean he wouldn't vote for BCRA. I mean, I don't know. It is totally possible that they get to 50 votes. So who do you think? Who do you think is going to vote no? Let's say Republicans lose 49-51. Who's the third vote? Who's the third no vote?
Dean Heller, maybe.
Yeah, Dean Heller, maybe.
I think also another. It's just so close, right? So it's you could have if they just need the Democrats need a couple more people to start waffling. So because, Dean Heller is not going to vote yes if it sounds like other people are going to vote no. You know what I mean? He needs to be convinced that he's sort of, here's my prediction. I think
that's right. I think it sounds like Dean Heller is not the third no vote. He may be the fourth, fifth, or sixth no vote.
Yeah.
Right?
I think I honestly, I'm starting to think you might be right. I don't know who the next, I think Lisa Murkowski is the next no vote. I think that's who it is. Because I don't see it being Rob Portman. Ben Sass isn't going to do shit.
Oh, we can talk about Ben Sass. Do you know what Ben Sass said a couple weeks ago?
In a moment, AJ. Who else could be no? Louisiana, Bill Cassidy's not going to vote no. John McCain, no. But apparently, like, the vote is being delayed because McCain's having some sort of surgery, and they want to give him time to recover. Did you guys hear that?
No, I haven't. What's the word on that?
It's on, like, the New York Times. I saw it earlier today. Hold on, I'll pull it up.
Is he having a spine implanted?
AJ, the Senate said that it would defer consideration of the bill because John McCain is recovering from surgery to remove a blood clot above his eye. That was not nice, AJ.
Okay, well, let me amend what I said. But he is very clearly a decorated war veteran and is a very impressive person in certain aspects of his life. But his senatorial career, and in particular the last 20 years of it, are nothing but disappointment. And
what about McCain-Feingold? You didn't like McCain-Feingold?
Is almost nothing but disappointment. So there. You know what? So here are my candidates for the third no vote. I think you're right. I think it's either going to be Lisa Murkowski or Rob Portman.
I don't think it's going to be Portman. I think Murkowski's it.
Kasich is lobbying. Kasich is lobbying so hard against the bill.
I just don't think it matters. Like I don't think that. I don't think Rob Portman's. That's the other thing is that I think at the end of the day, like there's probably enough team players in this party to where they will do this. It reminds me of like kind of Bill Clinton and gun control, right? Bill Clinton wanted to pass a gun control bill in 1993 or 1994, and he was able to convince like enough House members. There were a few that were on the fence, and every single one of them was like, "Dude, I'm going to lose my seat if I vote for this bill," and he basically, he said, listen, you got to vote for this bill, whatever. I mean, maybe it was their conscience, maybe whatever it was, but every single one of those people that, they knew it would be basically the last like big vote that they took in the Senate. And I think that's where Dean Heller is going to come down. And I think that's where, kind of Rob Portman and a lot of these other folks and maybe even Lisa Murkowski will come down. I was actually surprised to see Rand Paul be a no. I thought that at the end he would like vote for it. So I don't know. I'm fairly pessimistic. I think at the end of the day, like I don't think it's gonna. Let's just put it this way. I don't think it's gonna be 51 Republicans for or against this bill. I think it's gonna be like 54 or 55 each way or whatever the number or 50. Sorry, I don't. I think it's gonna be like it's gonna be all 52 that vote for it, or it's gonna be like 45 or 46 that vote for it.
Tom.
And I think the CBO score is going to determine it, by the way. I think if the CBO score comes out and they say it's not 22 million, but it's like 28 or 29 million they're going to be uninsured, I think at that point, these Republicans that are on the fence are going to be like, this is like not something I need to do.
Tom.
What's up?
Imagine a universe where the bill fails on a 49-51 vote. Who is the third vote?
Oh, I don't know. I'm sort of on the same boat as Ruchit. Like, I am dismayed, and I don't really believe that there is going to be any Republican that, stands up against this bill.
I think quite a few of them are going to lose their seat. Actually, let me ask you guys a procedural question. Let's say the Senate does pass its newer, better, awesomer BCRA 2.0. Does it then go back to the House? It has to, right? It's a different bill?
Yeah.
And so then does it have to get voted on by the entire House again?
Yep.
Yeah, but I think it's like one vote, right? Like it's not a conference committee or anything like that. It goes back to the House, and then there's just one vote, an up or down vote on the entire House.
So how's the Freedom Caucus? Like, how are they going to keep that crew together?
Isn't this more conservative than the bill they passed?
I think. Well, I don't know. The bill has less deficit reduction than the AHCA, and so the Freedom Caucus may bolt, but I sort of doubt it. I think that the Freedom Caucus at this point is ready to move on to just about anything else.
I think Ted Cruz also gives them cover, right? Here, like, because if this bill comes out, it gets out of the Senate, it had the Cruz Amendment, they can all just go and be like, I think Ted Cruz is somewhat of a kingmaker in this situation. I mean, if it passes.
I mean, it may be why McConnell has included the Cruz Amendment, even though it's so toxic, which is that it makes the bill less likely to pass the Senate, but much, much, much more likely to pass the House.
Yeah. And it's interesting also, like, did he do it to sort of screw over Cruz in the sense that, like, all this bad stuff, I mean, it's kind of like a no loss for McConnell, because if the bill goes down in flames, he can just be like, listen, if it hadn't been for that stupid Cruz Amendment, which took insurance away from even more people, we totally could have passed my BCRA 1.0.
Well, the other thing McConnell may be doing is that, so the next vote that is coming up is a motion to proceed. And what the motion to proceed does is it says we're actually going to take up this bill through reconciliation, and we're going to have floor amendments and whatever else we're going to have, right? And so you can have, say, 52 votes yes on the motion to proceed, and then not have 50 votes to actually adopt the bill. Or during the floor amendment process, you could have 52 votes to move to proceed, 52 votes to strip the Cruz Amendment, and then, 51 votes, I guess, to strip the Cruz Amendment, and then 51 votes to adopt the bill without the Cruz Amendment, right? I mean, McConnell could be setting up some sort of procedural showdown where the Senate floor has to play the bad cop against Ted Cruz instead of McConnell doing it.
Yeah, that could be. I didn't think about it that way. But I think that's the other thing, is those are the promises that he's making. But I've heard that people, at least that the senators, some of them, the moderates, are really skeptical that he'll end up delivering on that promise, that he will actually strip the Cruz Amendment. But I think, like, all those promises about how you'll be able to keep how the pre-existing condition coverage would stay, I mean, those are obviously not going to be kept if the bill passes.
It's a false promise, right? Like, isn't the most recent version of the bill with regard to pre-existing conditions just kick the can to the states, and if the states choose to remove it, then so be it?
It's true. That's another piece of the bill that we didn't talk about. Maybe it was already in BCRA 1.0, but
yeah, I think that's been the case from the beginning. Is that allows the federal Congress people to claim that, we didn't take away pre-existing coverage, and at the same time, wink, wink, nod, nod.
Yeah, it's it's interesting. I mean, I wonder, like, how long it will. I wonder if this is like, do you guys think this is like another 2 months or 2 weeks that they work on this bill? Or do you think like it's like they're going to be committed to this bill for like 2 more months if that's what it takes?
They've only got a couple more weeks in the reconciliation window, because the next fiscal year they want to do tax reform through reconciliation.
Right.
So if they don't get it done in August, they're not going to get it, or by August, they're not going to get it done.
Oh, that's very interesting. I forgot about that.
Yeah. All right, so I think the two interesting people to talk about are Ben Sasse and John Kasich. You want to do those?
Dude.
Sasse.
I mean,
let's start. I actually want to start with Kasich because I want to yell at Ben Sasse. It's going to take me a long time. Okay,
AJ has strong feelings about Ben Sasse.
So John Kasich has been campaigning hard against the bill. Mike Pence has been campaigning for the bill. They've been squabbling in public a little recently.
And actually, there's an interesting thing to be said about Mike Pence, other than the fact that he's Frank Underwood, which is that apparently he took Medicaid expansion as a governor. I didn't know that. Did you guys know that?
He got a waiver from Health and Human Services Commission. No, that's the Texas agency.
Yeah.
What's the federal? It's Health and Human Services.
Yeah, no, it's the Department of Health and Human Services.
Yeah. He got a waiver from the Department of Health and Human Services to make Medicaid slightly less good, but in exchange he did the Medicaid expansion.
So that's really interesting, right? He's messing with the Medicaid expansion, because part of what this bill does is it basically kills the Medicaid expansion by like 2022 or 2023, I think. Mm-hmm. And but he took it, and now he's saying it was terrible. So go Mike Pence. So Mike Pence has... That was new to me. Mike Pence has been doing some talk shows in support of the bill, and one of the things he said that Ohio has screwed up their Medicaid so badly. They have like 60,000 disabled citizens that are stuck on waiting lists, leaving them without care. And there's like totally false and contextless claim that Mike Pence specializes in. And so Kasich has shot back at Pence. I mean, this is like Republican on Republican violence. He's saying that Pence lied. He's saying that
the claim is false. It is just the opposite of what actually happened. That the Medicaid expansion, helped the disabled community, and there are people who are on waiting lists, but the waiting list in particular that they're on is for like very specialized in-home care or like institutionalized care. This isn't just like people who are on a waiting list to sign up for Medicaid or whatever. And these citizens are better off with the Medicaid expansion in Ohio than they would be without it. And so Mike Pence has been doing this thing over the last couple of weeks where he's like, oh well, if Obamacare is so great, why are there 20 million uninsured people in America? Totally ignoring the point that if BCRA passes, that 20 million figure becomes 50 million. You know what I mean? Like, it's he's totally disingenuous in cherry picking the statistics that he talks about. So I'm sort of glad to see John Kasich calling out Mike Pence. And I think if John Kasich is campaigning hard enough against the bill that he's willing to call Mike Pence a liar in public, I sort of feel like that has to weigh on Rob Portman. But maybe it doesn't. I mean, maybe people don't listen to the governors of their states.
Yeah, I don't think they do. And I wonder if I always like to see some second or third order move that's in the current move, and that may or may not be the case, but I wonder if Kasich is preparing to primary Trump.
Oh, I mean, almost certainly, right?
You think so?
Yeah. I think Kasich started preparing to primary Trump in June of 2016, right? When he didn't go to the convention and stuff.
I hope he does. John Kasich's a decent human being, which, as low of a bar as it is sorely lacking at the moment.
I found Kasich to be among the least objectionable presidential candidates in 2016.
Hillary Clinton being the most objectionable, obviously.
Oh, goodness. Ben Sass is saying that if we can't get BCRA done, we should just do repeal and delay.
So how long is his delay he wants to do for 3 or 4 years, right? It's a pretty long time that he wants to repeal and delay, I believe. Am I right on that?
So most of the repeal and delay plans that were talked about in January involved waiting until after the midterms to really do anything in earnest.
Do you think that if there was, let's say, repeal and delay passed, right? Do you think that effectively you'd go 3 years or 4 years, however long it is, they obviously probably wouldn't come up with an actual solution, and then it would just kind of continuously be renewed, or the delay portion would be extended by another 5 years or however long. I think this. I don't want to really repeal the bill. I think it needs to be improved, Obamacare. I mean, but I think this repeal and delay isn't so terrible.
I think it's terrible. I think it's an extremist position. So repeal and delay is two things. One, it says you want to enact a bill that promises to uninsure 32 million people. That is the CBO score for a complete repeal of the ACA. You want to uninsure 32 million people, and then you want to use the fact that is the change in law as a cudgel in negotiating with people who still believe in, actually governing the country.
So why is this a bad strategy, though?
Policy agenda. So why is it a bad strategy to? I mean, because the core conceit of repeal and delay is that you don't actually want to uninsure these 32 million people, right? You just want to create a clock where they will lose insurance to force Democrats to come to the table, right? You hold the future of 32 million people as a cudgel in a procedural move in the Senate. It's right. There's no good way of putting it. Right, it's just bad. It's bad, and it's extremist, and it is not an appropriate way to talk about or think about governing our country.
Tom, are you alive still? Just kind of doing a quick check on your aliveness.
Yeah, I'm Googling DuckTales. There's a new DuckTales cartoon coming out in 2017.
I'm thinking about getting a planter for my desk, like a wooden desktop office supply caddy, but also you could use it as you could put succulent plants in there. Look at this photo. I wish I could order this directly instead of, if somebody would just mail this to my office, this would be really nice. But they just send you the wooden thing. They don't actually send you all of the succulents in there. You have to go get the succulents yourself.
I think you can get terrariums and such on
Amazon. You think?
No, at Whole Foods.
Yeah, but I really like this look.
Well, just get the box, get some dirt, and get some succulents. How hard could it be?
I mean, it sounds like a lot of work.
Tom, what do you want to talk about?
What's up?
What do you
Are
want
we
to
at
talk about?
sidebars yet?
I think we should go to sidebars.
You want to do sidebars? Tom, I'm so sorry. You've been so bored these 2 weeks.
It's okay. I'm good.
Are you okay? Are you
I
still
think
gonna
it's...
Are you still going to be on the show next week?
Yeah.
I mean, not if it's about Bicker 3.0, AJ. Like,
Okay.
we're not talking about Bicker 3.0 next week. Nor can we talk about Don Trump Jr.
Can we talk about
DGTJ.
Bitcoin next week?
Only after you go to bed.
Tom, what's your sidebar?
So my sidebar. Are we on sidebars? Did that happen already?
I don't know. What do you want to do, Rouge?
I think we moved to the sidebar, but if our listeners are listening at this point, I'm interested in doing an episode on the Antarctic ice shelf that just fell off. Are you interested
us,
in listening?
Traveling to the ice
Well-
shelf and doing our episode on the ice shelf.
Now, if
Interviewing
we can
the
get
ice shelf?
if we can get appropriate sponsorship, yes. Barring appropriate, because we're not going to spend like $15,000 getting there ourselves. You know what I mean? Like if someone else is willing to front the $15,000,
Do you think
totally...
it only costs $15,000?
No, it probably costs more. It probably costs like 40 or 50.
Did
for
y'all
the three of
hear
us.
about Congressman Lamar Smith taking a secret fact-finding mission trip to the, I guess the Arctic to investigate or learn why the ice shelf broke off? Lamar Smith has been notoriously one of the congressmen that have been
big climate
opposed,
deniers?
Yeah, opposed to climate change science, calling it fake, all sorts of bad. Like
He's the
calling
head of
them
the House
names.
Science and Technology Committee.
Yes.
Like someone
Yes,
that doesn't
he
believe
is.
in science, like
Yeah.
it should just be a rule. If you don't believe in the thing that the committee does, you just shouldn't be the head of the committee. Like if you don't believe in intelligence, like at all, then maybe you shouldn't be head of the House Intelligence Committee. Or if you're like a big Bitcoin person and you don't believe in banking, maybe you shouldn't be head of the House Banking Committee. I could go on, but I won't.
Maybe if you don't believe in doing a good job governing the country, then you shouldn't be governing the country.
If you don't believe in using your post as a senator to do anything other than run for president, maybe you shouldn't be a senator. I remain, as the weeks pass, I become more and more disappointed with Ted Cruz and cannot wait for his time in public service to be over.
Okay, so sidebars?
Sidebars.
Okay, I'll start with my sidebar. So this ties into DuckTales, actually. So in 2017, Disney is creating a new series of DuckTales episodes that are...
This is super exciting to me.
It is. I mean, well, I think those of us in our generation sort of grew up watching shows like DuckTales.
Is DuckTales the one where the duck has a shirt but not a pants?
Yes, and a top
I know
hat.
the show.
And a top hat.
He's so rich.
Yeah, he's got an entire bank that he swims around in the money. You remember that? No?
No,
Awesome.
Scrooge McDuck, basically.
Awesome, dude.
But,
Scrooge
so,
McDuck.
DuckTales, they're coming out with the new DuckTales, and David Tennant is going to be the Scrooge. He's going to be the voice actor that plays Scrooge McDuck, and David Tennant is famous for a few things. One of which is Doctor Who, which is a sci-fi sort of British TV show about a doctor that travels around in a blue phone booth. And the other thing that he's really famous for is Broadchurch. And if you haven't seen Broadchurch, I highly recommend you watch Broadchurch. There's only 3 seasons, and it is really, really good. It's really good. He's the main character in Broadchurch. So this all ties together because Doctor Who has this plot point that allows them to change out the main character of the show every so often when they get boring. And this year they're having a new doctor play the main character, and for the first time since like 1967 or whatever, that doctor is going to be a female. The person playing or going to be playing the doctor is this lady named Jodie Whittaker, who played opposite David Tennant in Broadchurch, and now she's going to be the new doctor. So, highly recommend you watch Broadchurch. I don't care so much about Doctor Who, though. I wouldn't recommend watching it.
Should I watch Doctor Who? I don't watch Doctor Who.
It's not, it's sort of like the David Tennant years of Doctor Who were amazing. Like, they were so good. And it's just kind of been on a downhill track ever since. I think that I'm hoping that Jodie Whittaker has gotten a lot of acclaim for her role in Broadchurch, and the same sort of showrunner who did Broadchurch is going to be taking over Doctor Who in 2000. I guess the end of this year, next year, that time period, and so. The hope is with him and Jodie Whittaker on board, Doctor Who's going to get better, but who knows? I do know that Broadchurch is amazing and really good, and y'all should watch it. So that's my sidebar.
I got a good sidebar.
What's your sidebar?
Ruchit, go.
So my sidebar is from something that happened a year or so ago, but I just kind of got around to watching it. And it's this kid, this middle schooler named Jack Aiello from Chicago. And so for his middle school graduation speech, he did impressions of all of the presidential candidates. Did you guys ever see this?
No.
Oh, dude, it's so good. And then he ended up going on Jimmy Kimmel as well, which was also really good. But think of that as my sidebar 2.0 for our discussion of BCRA 3.0. But right now my sidebar is this kid doing these impressions of many of the presidential candidates. So he does a killer Trump, Ted Cruz. His Hillary's quite good. His Bernie Sanders may be the best. But anyway, so I thought it was really hilarious, and it'll be a good reminder to all of our listeners as to who actually ran for president last year.
Goodness. Okay. My sidebar is Deli Man, a documentary. It came out in 2014. It was on Netflix, but now it's not. I don't know. Maybe you can get it somewhere else. It's extremely good. It's a documentary about kosher-style delis and kosher delis. Prominently featured in the movie is a Ziggy Gruber, who is the proprietor of Kenny and Ziggy's in Houston, Texas, which is where I ordered lunch today. That's why it's my sidebar.
Is there a difference between a kosher-style deli and a kosher deli?
Yes. A kosher deli is certified kosher, whereas a kosher-style deli is...
Who certifies this? Can I be a certifier?
Oh, for sure, Tom.
Can we get distributed certification?
Oh, we should do
like
Heartland certified. We should say American Heartland certified. That could be our thing. In addition to this podcast.
The people who certify kosher restaurants, they're called shechitas. And it's like a guy who goes to your restaurant to make sure that you're actually using kosher ingredients.
Ooh. I really want us to become certifiers.
But anyway, whenever I go to a Jewish-style deli, I always order way too much food. So I was in Houston this morning, and I stopped by Kenny and Ziggy's in the morning. I got 2 orders of matzah brie, one for me, one for Lily. Matzah brie is like scrambled eggs with matzah and like other stuff in it. It's extremely good. It's like Jewish migas. I got half sour pickles, whitefish.
Did you
salad.
say it was Jewish migas?
Yeah, it's like Jewish migas. You use
That
matzah
sounds
instead of
good.
tortillas, but it's like really good. It's what we get? I got half sour pickles. I got latkes. I got whitefish salad. I got all the good stuff.
Dude, the stuff that they have on this Amazon India section is so good. Like the kitchen utilities, like they have all the stuff that, like, if you're, a person that, is Indian and you want to buy like kind of proper Indian like kitchen utensils, like kind of as you might have at home, you could do it. I mean, this is great. I'm going to put this in our Slack.
Whoa, these are like really aggressive looking cooking implements.
They're awesome. And like there's a dosa griddle. This is amazing.
Wait, aren't dosa griddles like really big?
I mean, they can be. I don't know how big this one is.
This one's 13 inches. You can make a pizza on that.
Yeah.
I like
That's
dosa.
really cool, dude. The good thing is like you can make the sort of dosa like kheer or whatever, like, you know, days in advance. There's idli makers.
Why doesn't a dosa griddle have sides? Why is it just flat?
Because dosas are flat, dude.
No, but like look at like some griddles have like a side slit your stuff stays in.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's like if you want a non-Indian griddle, get a non-Indian griddle. You know what I mean? Oh, wow, they sell like thali plates and like, dude, this is like this is crazy. I can't believe this. Like, do you think everyone on Amazon is seeing the Indian section, or do you think it's just me that's being shown the Indian section?
I think it's just you.
So you don't think this is like something that they just show everyone?
Are you going to get this hammered copper bottle, joint free with Ayurvedic benefited 100% pure and leak proof bottle?
Probably not. I am thinking about getting some Indian clothing. I kind of want to try that out.
Wait,
do you think they sell
for a bottle to be Ayurvedic benefited?
AJ, you're asking a lot of questions that you need to ask to an Indian person in India. Tom and I are not qualified to answer these types of questions. Tom, are you ready to go to, what do you call it, Costco, dude? Are we going to do that?
Yeah, if you want to come over, sure, I'll go to Costco. I need to buy some eggs.
Cool. I'm pretty excited about going to Costco.
Oh, dude, they've got an idli maker.
Yeah. They have everything, dude. Like, Amazon is like trying to displace the local merchant or your Patel Brothers
local
store.
Indian store?
Yeah.
It's a microwavable 2-tier idli maker.
That sounds weird, dude. Microwavable idli? Like, no
Who
thanks.
microwaves idli?
Tom's South Indian. He'll tell you how crazy that is.
Oh, my God. Okay, bullet point number 1, ideal for comma. Bullet point number 2, make pancake and microwave. Bullet point number 3, keep sweet / cut fruit / cake / bananas, etc. Bullet point number 4, covered from dust, flies, insects, etc. Bullet point 5, dishwasher safe.
I only see a stainless steel 4-rack idli stand. No microwavable idli stand.
The microwavable one looks hella plastic.
Amazon user Fogbeam gave it 0 stars.
Oh.
1 star. 100% of the reviews are 1 star. He says, very hard idlis. You put idli mix and get idli cookie in return. And then winking smiley face. Shivani G says, there is no lock. It doesn't even fit on top of the base. It's shaky. Lid fall down every time. I do not recommend it. 1 star.